Hello and welcome to etbfsi.com. My name is Amol Dete. And in the special session today, we are going to discuss strategizing digital readiness in the BFSI sector. And let me tell you, I have top speakers from the BFSI ecosystem who are going to discuss with me strategizing digital readiness, how the BFSI companies are actually adopting digital, what is the strategy, how the future looking like, what are the challenges they are facing. We are going to discuss all this with, allow me to introduce this seven speakers to you. My first speaker is Mr. Amit Saxena, the Deputy CTO at State Bank of India. Mr. Saxena, welcome to this discussion.
Thank you very much.
My next speaker is Mr. Sachin Goel, the EVP and CTO Tata AI Life Insurance. Mr. Goel, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you. I'm all excited to be here.
Great. My next speaker is Mr. Sharath Chandra, the CIO of Airtel Payments Bank. Mr. Chandra, glad to have you here.
Hey Amol and everyone, nice to be here on this platform and hoping to have a good discussion learning from this. Thank you.
Great, let's have a great discussion. My next speaker is Mr. GP Ashok Kumar, the CTO of the Karur Vysya Bank. Mr. Kumar, glad to have you.
Nice to be a part of this meet.
Superb. My next speaker is Mr. Dhimant Thakur, the Head Digital Banking, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. Mr. Thakur, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
My next speaker is Mr. Nikhilesh Vinod, the Director Enterprise Sales BFSI at Dell Technologies. Nikhilesh, welcome to this discussion.
Thank you, Amol, and thank you all the fellow participants, panelists. Looking forward to a very interactive session. Glad to be
Great.
here.
And my last speaker is Mr. Manish Chatterjee, the GM IT IDBI Bank. Glad to have you, Mr. Chatterjee. Again, thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking part into this discussion, and let's try to make it more meaningful. Let's try to get a lot of learnings in this particular panel discussion, which will be beneficial for the people at large, specifically from the BFSI sector. So to begin with, we all understand that the BFSI companies are far aggressively adopting digital. In fact, they're thinking about the new technologies, emerging technologies, and trying to see how they can, in fact, even customize policies or customize technology specifically for their customers. We are going to discuss all this. So to begin with, let me come to you, Amit, first. You're representing a large bank of the country. So tell me, how are companies or how are the financial institutions, adopting or finalizing or crafting their IT strategy currently?
Thank you very much, Amol, for your question. And let me say it this way. Digital is not as of yesterday kind of a thing, right? So State Bank of India have taken a digital journey 8 years, 10 years earlier in one way or another, but there was never an end-to-end digital transformation which we have taken up. We took that transformation in 2016 when we started building a full digital bank, which we call YONO, and we launched it on 24th November 2017. Having said that, that was a start. We were the only bank through which you can open an account without visiting a branch. You can do a FDRD, you can, what we call as dreams, right? You can create a new FDRD. And we have an integration for 5 of our joint ventures, which is SBI Cards, SBI Capsec, SBI Mutual Fund, SBI Life, SBI General Insurance, which means you do not need to visit any of the SBI subsidiaries for any of the wants or the need which you want to fulfill. So we started from there. That's like 4 years earlier. Now what we are talking of a transformation, a digital transformation, which is going to, give an instant gratification or to the needs of our customer, which means if you want it, then you have it now and here. So it's not like this that you have to do or think about any differently what I should do, how I should do. So what we are planning to do, if you have got a grown-up kid and you are an SBI customer, now you do not need to think about that, how your kid, as and when the pandemic would be over, he or she wants to study abroad. We know you have got a mortgage with us, you have got a car loan with us. We are going to extend your education loan, right? And you can send your kid to study abroad. And when you visit her or him outside, and when you are coming back to one of the international destination, returning back to Mumbai, and you reach an international terminus, you would get a notification, it's a long flight for you, right? We are giving you an offer of ₹300 to have a foot massage on the next spa in house itself. That's what we call instant gratification. That's what we are talking of customer engagement. That's what we are talking of what we are going to do, how we are going to change the whole digital experience for a customer. Me and you have been not sitting in office for a very long time, right? So I have been coming office from June last year only, right? So first half of the year went by. And that time we have ensured, and that time we have promised ourselves that we are going to change the whole experience. And we are not only talking about a retail customer experience, we are talking of something like, if you have ever heard of, there's a turmeric which is called Langdong turmeric found in Meghalaya itself, right? And it has got a high curcumin percentage, and which is more than any turmeric powder. We are saying we are going to fund that startup, right? Somebody is marketing it, and he is looking out for working capital loan. Why he has to come out from Meghalaya to a place to find out a bank to tell him what's a business proposition? And we are saying, if you want it, the bank is going to reach your doorstep, and that's where we are going to start itself. And that's what we are very excited about. We are going to change the full digital transformation behavior as well as the experience for our customer. Thank you very much, Amol.
Very valid points, Amit. In fact, I have been taking, talking to you, and you can see how the SBI YONO has been actually, rising and aggressively adopting the market. I think the point that you mentioned about the customization and offering, a great customer or a doorstep service, this part of your IT strategy is really remarkable. I think, and that's where a lot of BFSI companies are also thinking in that way. Let me get some insurance perspective also here. So Sachin, I will come to you, and if you could tell me, how are you crafting your IT strategy? How are BFSI companies and specifically insurance companies are crafting IT strategy according to you?
Thank you, Amol. Thank you for that question. And I think taking a lead from what we just heard from Amit, I think customer typically has to be the center of all of the strategy that you create. And that's how we really looked at our IT strategy. What are the customer needs? When a customer interacts with an insurance company, be it at the point of purchase or be it at the point of service, what would be customer needs? So that's the first input to the strategy. I mean, the strategy essentially ends up being a confluence of few inputs. One, of course, is like I mentioned, the customer needs. Second, you'd also look at what's happening around you. So the changes happening in the technology space, emerging technologies that are coming in with artificial intelligence, with the ability to manage data, which will simplify and personalize experience for the customers. Using that, make the entire experience frictionless. So leveraging the emerging technologies that are there. Then the data availability now, and I think pretty much everyone's kind of recognized the value that data brings in, and we heard so many examples that Amit shared in terms of leveraging data to give experience to the customer at the point when the customer needs it, is the third element of it. So basically, the customer needs, emerging technologies, availability of data and how do you use it to improve personalization, to improve experience, and finally, the emergence of fintech ecosystem. Because what we've also recognized is in today's world, you can't do everything on your own. I mean, you could do it, but it's going to take much longer. So it's always best to leverage what's available rather than creating it from scratch. Use it to the maximum. So a convergence of all of these four, coming into now getting to what do we end up delivering to the customer. At the time when the customer approaches the insurance company, helping the customer identify the right product that's suitable for the customer. So in our case, what we would do is there's a suitability analysis that happens, which clearly looks at customer needs and identifies what are the right products or right solutions that the customer would need. Hand-holding the customer through the entire buying experience, giving a personalized, hyper-personalized experience to the customer based on what we know about the customer. If it's a returning customer, clearly we'll have some information. Making the process easier in a manner that we don't end up asking too many questions from the customer. If we have that information available, then we will reduce the need for doing that or expecting documents to be uploaded. So minimize that entire step so that the buying experience and the issuance happens quickly without too much of information to be provided by the customer himself. Leveraging data to make sure the risk analysis that organizations like us do, we are able to do it in a manner that we can minimize the number of medical tests that need to be done by the customer, right? So that's another important aspect in making the entire process frictionless, and that's where the use of data comes in. So bringing all of the pieces that I mentioned earlier together to deliver an experience to the customer where the customer is able to choose the right product, get it in a manner which doesn't end up creating a lot of friction, is how we've kind of looked at the overall tech and digital strategy. We call it tech, digital, and analytics. TDA is what we call it internally. We've looked at that strategy in this form.
Okay, thanks, Sachin, and thank you, in fact, for raising that hyper personalization, point, because that's where, I think the BFSI companies are actually aggressively thinking of. So I think I will tweak the question and maybe ask the same question to two speakers. One is Sharath and second is Dhiman, because both are new banks. So Sharath, to start with you, we are talking about strategizing the digital readiness. So there are companies like SBI who started their digital journey long back. Both you, payment bank and small finance bank, got an advantage of starting with digital itself because the whole agenda was digital. So when we speak about digital readiness, how do you think the strategy is working for you? How do you think that strategy should be for the BFSI companies?
I think we are at a stage where digital is the way to go. Mobile specifically, even more so. I think our country has seen multiple phase shifts. I mean, the whole computers. A lot of our Indians did not see what a computer is, did not use, but did a phase shift into mobile. And then there's the data phase shift that is happening. So I think being digital, being mobile is extremely critical right now because that's where the customers are. I think from a digital strategy perspective, I don't think there is a organization that can still believe that without a digital and automated system, we can still do strong, large-scale business. We were lucky as a payment bank. We started completely digital. I think some of the newer companies do that. And the way I look at it, right, what we're doing is building an internet scale bank. We use internet scale product strategies. We use internet scale technologies. We use internet scale distribution mechanisms to be able to attract large scale customers. I mean, tens of millions of customers. And the business model is very simple of having a very low margin business. It's not about having few customers at a large ARPU, but having large number of customers with a smaller ARPU, but still being profitable, right? I think the only way to get to that kind of a thing is being digital, being technologically advanced, and leveraging processes, technologies, and mindsets that are very similar to what internet companies follow, right? I think that's where it is. I think this has worked very well for us. We've acquired tens of millions of customers who are active on a monthly basis for us. We do over 10 million transactions per day. And to be able to do that at that speed and at that efficiency, technology is the core. The other aspect is, I think all of this is for one or two goals. At least that's how I look at it. Technology, products, all these are secondary. The first thing is customer trust. I think understanding who the customer is, understanding what the customer's needs are, and understanding what channel or what mode should we provide that service so that they adopt the service best. I think that goal of customer service and building customer trust is the only thing that will succeed in this industry for now or for the future. And hence technology is just a medium towards that. The second thing is about safety. It is all about ensuring that on our systems, customers feel comfortable and they trust that their transactions, their money, their trust is safe with us. And I think that is another thing that is extremely critical in this current context. So everything that we're doing in terms of the strategy is aligned towards this: customer trust, and customer safety. And I think that's where the regulators are pushing all of us. I think that's the whole idea of being in this domain at this point in time, delivering safe services that provide customer convenience by understanding who they are, what their needs are.
Noted, Sharath. I think valid points. And I will come to Dhiman. Again, new bank. I know it's been 3-4 years now, but still, you got a benefit of starting afresh new. So, what do you think? How the banks or the BFSI companies can create their strategy to become digital ready?
Great. Thanks, Amol. We may be a new bank, but we've been in the NBFC space for 15 years now. It's just that 3 years ago, we converted ourselves from an NBFC to a small finance bank. And when we were an NBFC, we did make very good digital investments. The core banking software, which was customized for micro payments and micro lending, was already existing. So we were digital at that point in time. And when we converted into a full-fledged bank, a small finance bank, we did make very good tech investments in terms of CBS, in terms of CRM, in terms of new age technologies like an RPA platform, and so on and so forth. At Ujjivan Bank, the entire IT strategy right now rests on three key pillars. One is the business aspect, where we are looking at automating and digitizing a lot of workflows, be it customer facing workflows, be it workflows at the sales channel to ensure assisted sales to the customers, as well as our internal workflows to bring in process optimization and faster turnaround times. Just to bring in a perspective, we operate in a segment which is what we call as a mass market segment, which means we cater to a large audience who require a high touch sort of an interaction, and that has to be enabled by high tech. And that's why all the business processes become all the more important. When they see a digital process with a high touch sort of an interface, they get all the more confidence and they feel all the more secure about this entire engagement. The second aspect is the customer aspect, where we focus a lot on the kind of experience we want to give to the customer and how we use digital technology to enable customer convenience and customer ease. Case in point being the recent, COVID pandemic, where a lot of our customers who wanted to make their EMI payments could not because of various lockdowns and everything. And it was not safe for them as well. So we reached out through various integrations with payment banks and other partners, Airtel Payments Bank being one of them, wherein customers could actually deposit their EMI payments to a local store, and that's how they used to credit their EMIs to their loan accounts, right? So the customer benefited and we benefited, and overall we did give the customer convenience, and I'll talk more about it later in the conversation. The third aspect that we also focus on is the entire ecosystem play. Some of the panelists did speak about fintechs and all, but we see the entire ecosystem not only as fintechs and startups, but also the technology vendors and partners, for which we have developed an entire API framework where all our banking APIs are now available on an API gateway ready for consumption. So effectively, the entire bank is API enabled, and any single service or multiple set of services are available for anyone to explore, tinker, and innovate. So these are the three pillars of the strategy as we follow right now.
Okay, thanks, Hemant. Noted that. Let me pick a question for Dr. Ashok and Manish in a different manner. Ashokji, I will come to you since you're talking about the IT strategy. Let me ask you a simple question. What are the major challenges that the BFSI companies and specifically banks like you face, while adopting or executing technologies or adopting new IT services?
Banking industry as of now is undergoing a sea change. One of the main reasons is digital transformation. In order to run a bank, each bank should have at least 80 to 90 applications running to do their banking business and other allied activities. To say about IT challenges, the thing is how to integrate the existing applications to talk to each other. And day in and day out, there are a lot of regulatory guidelines about the cyber security, which all BFSI segment has to implement. The reality is that many of the applications will run on its own without any issues. The challenge comes when you go for integration within the applications. More than the application integration, if we are going to install or implement security softwares, that poses big challenges for implementation of IT. Nevertheless, banks has to learn how to integrate their systems within security systems and ensure bank is not only giving seamless good experience to the customer but also ensure the safety and security of the transactions by implementing various security solutions or security guidelines issued by RBI from time to time.
Okay, Ashokji noted that. Manish, I will come to you, and again, I will take the IT execution or IT infrastructure question to you. How at your bank you are trying to create a robust IT infrastructure, and how are you ensuring that it will be seamless and it will be executed seamlessly?
First of all, let me tell you that my IT infrastructure, whatever at this moment the bank is having, it's something which is not static, which is there for last maybe some years. It's not today because of the kind of expansion what we are having as of now and the customer base what we have increased. Now, as of date, to maintain a infrastructure which is catering to my total customer base and the demand of the customer through the different kind of need what we have it for the IT is a challenge in itself. Now, I will tell it this way that my first priority on that is that I must have my application rationalized. The rationalization of the application is one of the most crucial part, and through which we can see that the reusability of the things should come in a shape that which can release my infrastructure need also. So for that, that whatever IT ops kind of scenario, what automations we have to do in the IT ops that we have to do, whatever we have to go for a cloud kind of model with a proper, approved policy that we have to also see for that, which is also a part of important infrastructure. Then again, my operational process that has to be improved, that should induce the agility of the IT process and also the service delivery. Then my technical competency to drive those digital transformation is also very important. So these are something, along with that, I will say also on the data architecture and the governance part. So these things are very important for me by which I can improve my infrastructure. On the digital side, I will speak up that my customer experience should have that kind of, because of this, my customer experience should also improve on that. Because that ultimately is the ultimate goal of the whole this process.
Right, Manish ji. And Nikhilesh, I would like to have your views here. We are talking about how the BFSI companies can be digital ready, and you heard the speakers who spoke about their strategy, the challenges in the execution. But I would like you to share, your perspective in terms of, I'm sure you must be talking to a lot of BFSI companies. What are the major challenges which they face specifically in IT execution?
Yeah, so Amol, a very, very interesting conversation and a lot of insights, I must say. See, we heard about, the surge in digital adoption and the technology innovation, which has been absolutely fast, at a faster pace, in, let's say, compared to last many decades and century, and especially it's been accelerated with the COVID lockdown that has been imposed. We have seen the surge in transaction volume. We have seen the change of consumer behavior, which has propelled this digital or digitization phenomena in that scene. One of the observation, in this period has been the startling revelation of some of the weaknesses in the underlying service technology architecture, that has sort of constrained the market penetration and further customer adoption. And we have sort of seen that the UPI transaction, if you take in the payment space as an example, we saw in the month of January almost 2.3 billion payment transactions have been clocked on the UPI. But the transaction load that has been generated has been so overwhelming for even some of the largest public sector and private sector banks that, transaction failures or transaction losses, which leads to customer, dissatisfaction or experience issue. So that's there. And we have, of course, seen the central regulatory body, RBI and all otherwise, intervening also on that side. And that's, I think, all has been caused because, banks have been using largely the traditional legacy, monolithic architecture. So the traditional legacy platform or the infrastructure that most of the institutions have been using, it was for a scalable, cloud-based kind of a model, or an interoperable model, or a collaborative model, or a situation like, the COVID that we have sort of seen. So the first and foremost thing is the modernization of this IT infrastructure, which is there, and that's been. Now the problem here is the monolithic architecture and the core banking architecture or the legacy infrastructure was not really meant for repurposing or re-architecting or easy manageability from that standpoint. However, it's working with a lot of ecosystem codependent applications also, and it's working in that sync. So you really don't know what can throw the system off gear from an operational mismatch perspective. So the upgradation, so all these things are extremely time consuming. First of all, it involves cost. Upgradation is important. Compatibility is important. The intent of the modernization is important, but more importantly, doing it understanding that this is an inherent risk and it's a part of the inherent risk capital is a part of financial institutions working pattern. That's the important aspect. So that's one. The second is, of course, the creating a very distributed, resilient network architecture, because now the perimeter has moved. Erstwhile banks were working in hub and spoke architecture with the branches connected to the central systems or the systems in the central offices. Now with the COVID, the perimeter has really shifted. People are working from anywhere. The front-end users and partners are accessing applications from anywhere. So your perimeter has actually moved. So having a very strong network and transformation of that network connectivity is the second aspect of it. And while doing all these things, keeping the regulatory aspects in mind when you move to sort of a cloud-based architecture, the data privacy, data sovereignty, the regulatory policies which are there, which Mr. Ashok Kumar and Manish also spoke. So keeping those in mind, and lastly, of course, securing the entire transaction. We heard about customer experience, trust, the safety and the security of the transactions. So keeping that in mind, all those things are sort of some of the challenges which are there from implementing a robust IT infrastructure.
Noted, I think valid points, Nikhilesh, in fact, that monolithic architecture and are really important points that you raised here. Thanks for that, Nikhilesh. And let me bring some more, what I can say, addition to this by asking one or two important questions. And Amit, I will start with you. Yes, the story of digital is intact now. It can be inseparable from the businesses, not only in BFSI but everywhere. And everybody is aggressively going on IT infrastructure, building robust digital innovations because they want to offer best services to their customers. But at the same time, every company wants to look at the profit, wants to look at the business value. So my question to you, Amit, is, how to align business goals, with IT infrastructure when you're adopting new technologies, when you're going for new digital. Ultimately, how to align with your business model, right?
Very interesting question, because business model, everybody have to be profitable. Or give or take an example of a State Bank of India, right? We have got 22,000 branches, 60,000 ATM, right? We are spread from east to west and north to south, right? You go anywhere, you will find a SBI. How we are going to manage it? What's the cost of putting everything onto a digital, whether we need it or whether people are no longer need of that kind of a. So what we have done transactional analysis for all the journeys which are good to have, but can we still wait for some time? And what we have also done, and this I'm not talking, most of the people think it from a retail customer perspective, right? We are not talking only from a retail customer perspective. We are talking it from an SME customer perspective. We are talking of a large corporate itself. So we have got a different flavor of all this thing available to our customer. Having said that, if you see, the biggest challenge what we have to see is what's the return on investment with all the hardware and the software procurement which you want to do. I can tell you that whatever the sum you spend on digital transformation and what a company have to spend onto building up an infrastructure, right, and keeping guards to protect that infrastructure, right? Every ATM costs plus 3 guards, 24/7. You know, you have to secure all. There's a huge difference. So there's no way that there's no doubt in, at least in BFSI sector, that going digital is the way forward. Right. The only challenge is that what you have to see is, and a lot of people think that there's a panacea which is called, let's go to cloud, right? That's not there, right? So first you have to work on your data points, right? What's your data priority? And I can tell you with surety that even if you are a new bank or an old bank, it doesn't matter. You still have to work on your data purity first. Prior, you can make a call to go to a cloud itself, right? And that's a first step towards it. And what you would see is there's no way that this is going to circle back, or this wave is going to go. The only thing what you would start seeing, you would find newer places, and I'm not going to talk about it because you would see those offerings coming out from State Bank of India. Places where people think that, how come we can never thought of giving a digital offering in that way. So we have started thinking like a fintech. This you would see at places and things which are never been thought of, right? Who have ever thought that there would be a way of doing a digital transaction of with a 4-party involved through a UPI itself? That's only a start itself. You would see those changes happening, especially you have seen that already happening in insurance sector. You would start seeing payment was one space, right? Loan is another space. Working capital is another place, right? Treasury is another thing which you would see, which you have never thought that there can be any changes done to a treasury. Treasury, right? How come anything can change on treasury, right? But there's a very differential thought what we have. And we would be a harbinger in taking all those changes. And that's what we are saying. We are thinking like a fintech, and we would execute it like a fintech at a State Bank of India.
I think it's an interesting debate, Amit, that banks wants to become a fintech and fintech wants to become a bank. So I think it's a quite interesting debate which is happening globally. Ashokji, I will come to you and would like to take your view also on the business value. So how the banks like you also should look at the business goals, business value while adopting IT or the new innovations in the bank.
To start with, IT is a part of total corporate. The IT goals or IT activities should be aligned to the business goals. When it comes to ROI, what needs to be decided is that it is not one size fits all. What is your customer profile? What products your customers are looking? Once you decide about the products and the services which you wanted to offer, because nowadays no bank is building any product on its own. It is all vendor made, and banks just goes and implement. See what are the technologies which you wanted to implement, and search for the right partners who gives good product and post product support. You arrive at the IT cost in one hand. In another hand, by just adding this service or this product, what is the increase in transactions? What is the increase in business which the bank projects? And what is the increase in income which the bank projects? The thing is, you have to take into account the expenditure involved in launching a product or service, vis-a-vis the business which you are going to generate, and arrive at a formula to have an ROI before launch of any product. This is the view of the Karur Vysya Bank.
Okay, noted, Ashokji. Manishi, at IDBI, how do you, look at the ROI? I mean, Ashokji mentioned about the business goals. He partly mentioned about the ROI. But if I ask you specifically, how do you actually map the ROI with digital adoption at IDBI Bank?
This is a very complicated part. See, the the point is when we are at the IT and we are at the, the management's from the management side that, okay, we have to execute this particular, suppose I have to go for a video KYC. Now I have to execute this video KYC process. I have to see that this technology is enabled for the bank and this is something which is working seamlessly for the bank. Now the point is that whatever ROI I am to get it, this is not possible for me to at this moment. It all depends that how business is also targeting that video KYC, that numbers, how they are successful. Now that may take 1 year for them to, to come out with that video KYC process to go for the customers and come back with that, okay, my video KYC process is now enabled and now every day we are going for a 5,000 video KYC numbers. So that is the time, okay, I will say that, okay, my ROI is has been there and I have achieved that. But it all depends. It's a very complicated, if I straight away go for the mathematics and if I straight say that, okay, my ROI is there, I will tell you my data warehouse has been implemented. Today it is 4 years. Now, ROI, how I am going to get it, whatever analytics and whatever things which is there, that is now obsolete. I have to go for a data lake kind of scenario now. So it's a very dynamic kind of scenario and it normally is very difficult to define. I mean, at least to me, it is not possible for an IT person to define this way, this ROI.
No, sure. I think that's one of the honest answer, Manishji. I think thank you for sharing that. So Sachin, my question to you, because we have seen a lot of partnerships in insurance business as well. A lot of insurance companies are partnering with InsurTech. One is when all this model is changing and we have seen a rapid shift in the insurance, what kind of new innovation or what kind of new tech adoption that you see specifically in this particular sector going ahead? And again, how are you going to connect it with your business goals or ROI? You want to add something on that lines?
Sure, Amol. Great question. I think innovation is the name of the game right now. I can't think of any boardroom where this is not being discussed, and we're no different. So clearly, leveraging emerging technologies coming from the big tech players like Google or Amazon or Microsoft, or very tactical solutions coming out from fintechs or smaller tech companies locally that we typically work with. The focus of all of those for us is, how are we able to, like I said in the first call, I was saying personalization, hyper personalization that we give to the user. Plus, it's also about how do I enable the interaction at the point of the interaction itself. Traditionally, when most of the organizations did automation, you would have an interaction and then the fulfillment of the entire transaction was happening subsequently. But a lot of these technologies are now allowing us to complete the transaction right at that point in itself. And that's where we're seeing a lot of innovation happening. Just to take, for example, when our customers are interacting with us for a policy purchase, let's take that as an example, we are able to leverage the ecosystem where either through credit bureaus or through other legitimate data sources based on customer consent, we are able to use that innovation, leveraging AI, to essentially give the customer an experience where the final decision can also happen in the same interaction, right? So that's one example. Suppose there's a servicing transaction where the customer, in the past, the customer would give a service request and that would get executed at a later point in time. We are now able to, let's say if it's a document upload, during the interaction itself, we are able to OCR the document using either Google or a Microsoft kind of APIs. Using that OCR information, we are able to take a decision on it. We're able to use RPA to execute that transaction in real time and give the final confirmation for that entire process. So now if you see in this entire chain, there are multiple pieces of technology which have come in the form of innovation in the recent past, have been used to give a real-time experience to the customer, or as some would call it, instant gratification to the customer. So that's one part of the innovation. The second part that I would say, and the way we've been looking at it, is how do we leverage these innovations to, in some form or shape, maybe reinvent the business model as well, right? I mean, it's insurance at the end of the day, but how do you reach out to the customer? Can you get closer to the customer? And now we're leveraging digital channels to get closer to the customer. I mean, we have the ability for the customer to come and directly come to our website and buy insurance. So that's something that we're able to use. Right? Now, the important question as well, Amol, is how do you map the ROI for all of these initiatives? I think for us, it's very, very clear. Everything that we're doing has very clear, solid ROI identified upfront. Now, ROI for us is in both forms. It could be quantifiable numbers, and in some cases, those are process or customer metrics. If it eases the customer experience, that is also measured and quantified through different metrics. NPS, customer satisfaction through NPS, is also a benefit that we track. So the entire experience, what was the feedback that the customer gave, goes into the business case of various decisions. And then there are a lot of projects which have projected financial benefits, and those get tracked. So there are both ways to look at the benefit of these projects, which we're tracking. Pretty much every project has to go through that.
Okay, thanks, Sachin. Sharad, do you also want to supplement that, the business goal and the ROI part?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, right, I think I don't think there's any business which can now think about doing business without technology in some way or the other. So technology costs are not looked as an independent expense center anymore. We are part of the business teams. We are part of the business teams in terms of designing products, looking at what are the kind of products customers need based on research that is happening, data that we're collecting, and everything that we are talking about, again, is based on a customer need. So it's about identifying, hey, this set of customers, this cohort of customers need this kind of features. Can we quickly get an MVP done? Can we get an experiment there? See if that is driving some metric, moving some needle somewhere, right? So it is no longer about saying that, hey, IT is an expense center, business is a profit center. Both business and IT are together in this thing, and we look at it as what is the cost of doing business and what is the opportunity cost lost if we did not do this, and what is the revenue or other metrics that would move if we actually did this and moved fast. So I think we no longer look at it as, hey, should I invest in this IT project? There are no IT projects. Everything is a business project supported by an IT team, built by our own team or by partners, but delivered to customers through a unified mechanism. So we follow a very consistent agile product development process with design thinking and identifying what are the products that we want to take, get an MVP done, and so on and so forth. So it's all about, can we grow our business? Can we improve our business metrics? I think that's how Sachin looked at it too, right? NPS or customer engagement metrics or whatever it is. These are all investments to get those kind of benefits. And we all look at it in a longer term view. It's not just that, oh, this quarter we have this budget, so this is what we need to do. It is about looking at the longer term picture and larger term scale.
Quickly, Nikhilesh, I want you also to add here specifically on the business goals, business values, and mapping the ROI, because a lot of institutions still have this legacy infrastructure which they are actually transforming and going ahead with new infrastructures or something like that. But before adopting that, the big question is how to gain or how to create a business value out of it. So what are your thoughts here, Nikhilesh? What do you think is the better way?
I think Sharath made a very valid point, and Sharath and Sachin, that today the technology investment is not really a expense. It's an investment for the growth. To understand that, and the CIOs and the leaders in the banks to understand that. That's the first and foremost thing. Second, I think as long as IT and business are in lockstep, and there's a very granular vision of what needs to be achieved, like Amit also suggested, your data purity is very important. We talk about digitization, but really, how do we harness the data? How do we massage the data? How do we drive the value from that data, or innovate on that data? So long as there's a granular understanding of the vision, awareness of the vision, I think the implementation is that much more smoother and effective, and you sort of balance between efficiency and effectiveness. That's the second parameter. Third, I think, it's no secret that customer experience remains at the center of it. Customer experience, customer centricity, the user experience, or the experience from the kind of various platforms and applications that one would have, that would remain at the forefront. And as long as you are able to drive it in that direction, again, you will get the desired result. the systems that you create from today for today, whether it's from an infrastructure modernization or modernization of the banking system or application modernization from that standpoint, they need to be ready for the scale of tomorrow. While we may have the requirements for today, very soon will be outpaced on our numbers. And those systems should be ready to scale for the requirements that would volume that will emerge, in the near future. Security, of course, remains at the helm of it, as we have spoken enough about it. And the last important aspect is a cultural transformation. And we derive the ROI and the effectiveness of the rollout or efficiency of the rollout. Whatever technology adoptions that we are doing and innovations that we're doing, if we have to keep the human touch points at the center of it, how does it fall in the overall organization strategy? How the users would be, or the employees or the officers would be impacted or benefited, how they would respond to it, how the change requests would be managed. I think those remains as the important aspects because no technology innovation or adoption would be complete without really keeping the cultural transformation in the center of it. So I think these are various ways, and there are tangible ROIs, there are intangible ROIs which are there. So as Manish sir said, if you look at from a pure Excel matrix perspective, there is an investment, and you look at left hand right side of from the investment to return perspective. But whether it's a faster time to market, how well you are able to differentiate your product, how we are able to reduce the operational risk and build a resiliency which is required, those are some of the aspects, and there are many more which we all aware of, that will drive the effective TCO, cost benefit analysis, and the success of true digital rollout for any customer, any industry, and mostly from a banking financial perspective.
Amol, because I have to leave, I would give two examples just to talk about why itself. So we, along with we launched two journeys. One is pre-approved personal. So you get a notification on Yono app, you click over that, you get an OTP, you enter that OTP, and you are pre-approved for that sum gets into your account. 10-second journey. The number of people who have availed that journey from the start till now, it's overwhelming. And now it has been given by a lot of other BFSI segment also. The other journey, what we have done is, during the pandemic, which was ready quite early, about the Yono Quick Pay. You were worried how I should go to ATM, enter, and touch a screen, etc. Now what you can do, you can use Yono app. You can schedule a transaction, select a PIN of your own, visit the ATM. On the screen, you enter the PIN, right? And the money would be dispatched. You are not touching the keyboard itself. Those two journeys are really have made a very huge difference, because what we have seen that how people have appreciated and taken over. People complain, I am not getting a PAP. And we say because it runs through analytics itself. So it's very interesting, and having and speaking and getting an opportunity by ETBFSI to speak to you all.
Thanks, Amit. In which we are almost come to an end. I wanted to take a last question with Hemant now. We discussed major part about the strategy, crafting strategy, how to look at the business value, map the ROI in and around it. But going ahead, when we talk about the emerging technologies and how it can actually benefit the BFSI companies, Hemant, my question to you is, what is that come to your mind as a benchmark when you're adopting new technologies or when you're going for next level of digital innovation?
Thanks, Amol. I was listening to all the panelists talking about ROI, and my take on how we select an emerging technology resides on the one pillar, which is how are we benefiting the customers, and therefore what is the impact on the top line and the bottom line of the bank or the company. Just to give you a perspective, I heard some panelists talk about the dissociated model where there is business and there is IT, and it's very difficult to measure ROI. There are models where IT is part of business discussions and all. What we've done here at Ujjivan Bank is something different based on our experience in the past, where we've seen companies who are fighting to do innovation, but then there is no ROI focus and so on and so forth. So we have a dedicated team here, which we called digital banking team. And there are two parts to it essentially. there is one set of people who are the makers and managers, as we call it, who focus on product innovation, who focus on process innovation and digitizing the entire journey. And there is a second part of the team, which is the drivers part, right? Their focus is solely to identify what are the customer segments who are likely to use this innovation and ensure that it is actually used on ground. Whatever feedback comes from on ground is then passed on back to the makers and managers, who then constantly refine the product, service, and the process, right? So with this sort of a combination, we've been able to identify what should be the business impact of any investment that we make, even if it is a rupee or a crore. And we are able to identify what is the ROI which will come in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years time, and actually track and manage it on a regular basis. So this is a differentiation that we've done here in Ujjivan Bank, which is really working out for us, because ROI is actually at the core of our digital strategy here.
Okay, so ROI is a core at the digital strategy, along with the emerging technologies and the new innovation that we're going to make. Thank you, Hemant, and in fact, it was a meaningful conversation with all of you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your perspective. And we are glad that all of you came together and shared your perspective here at ETBFSI. Thank you so much, each one of you. I'm really glad. Thank you, Mr. Saxena. Thank you, Mr. Goel. Thank you, Mr. Chandra. Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. Thank you, Mr. Thakur. Thank you, Mr. Kumar. And thank you, Mr. Nikhilesh as well, for sharing all the thoughts. Stay tuned to etbfsi.com and let's stay connected. Thank you.